So got some questions for you about HELOCs. Want to dive into HELOCs a little bit, see what they're used for, how they work, how you get them. Just
Yeah.
give us all the information.
Okay.
Yeah, and how they're different. So the HELOC is the home equity line of credit.
Yes.
How is that different from a home equity loan?
Yep.
Right? So all kinds
Yep.
of questions and
Let's dive into that. So HELOC,
Yeah.
home equity line of credit, that's what it stands for. So it is a supplemental mortgage typically that people get when they have equity in the house and they want to tap into the equity without selling the house, right? So typically HELOC goes behind the first mortgage, or it could be a standalone if there is no mortgage on the property at all. Here's an example. So let's say you own a home for a value $1 million and you have a first mortgage on it, 500,000. So you have 500,000 equity in the property and you want to get some money out without selling the home, right? So you
Okay.
get that second mortgage. Let's say you get 300,000, and so total between first and second, the balance is now 800,000. So that's 80% of the value.
Okay.
Why I'm actually, showing you the percentage is because typically you cannot draw the whole 100%
Right.
for equity out of the house. So depends on the lender, and every lender is different. They have different guidelines. A lot of them are capped at 80%. So they want to make sure that you're not completely draining all the equity. And if something happens and you cannot make the payment, you can sell the house and still make the profit, or instead of going belly up, right?
Yep.
So some can go to 90% and some even can do 100. So it all depends on the company.
Okay.
So the credit line, it's a draw. Think of a credit card, but this credit card is actually secured by the property. Regular credit cards are unsecured. This one is, the credit line is secured. So when you get this 300,000 line of credit, you might have zero balance on it, just like on a credit card. You have a limit of 300,000, but you can have a zero balance. You have zero balance, you have zero payment. Once you need the money, you can write yourself a check. They don't give a credit card for this one, right? So it's a checkbook. So you write yourself a check, or whoever maybe you hired, you doing renovation, and you have a company that you pay into in some, in draws. So you write them a check. They just, deposit the check. Now you have a balance on your credit line, and now you have accruing the interest, and you start making payments.
Okay.
So the payments are interest only for X period of time. Again, it depends on the program, depends on the bank. It could be 10-year interest only option, and then after that, they want you to pay it off in 30 years in total. So let's say 10 years interest only period, and after that they're going to convert it into home equity loan, which I'll talk in a second, amortized over 20 years, for example, or you can refinance at any point. So when you wrote a check to someone, $50,000, then you can pay interest only, or you can actually pay extra, so you can pay down to 20,000 or whatever, or to zero, and then you have that available credit open up for you again, and you can write the check. So like a credit card, basically.
Okay.
The interest rate is variable, and it attaches to prime. So when you hear the Fed increase the rates, now they stopped and they're thinking to start bringing it down. So that's the prime, that's the rate that Federal Reserve is controlling, and the HELOCs rate attached to that. So bank will tell you your rate is whatever percentage, 1% plus prime. Prime
Okay.
right now is at 8.5 or 8.25, something like that. I think it's 8.5.
Yeah.
So they can say your rate is 1 plus prime, so it's 9.5. Or in some cases, it could be actually minus half or minus whatever plus prime. So that's how you calculate what your
Okay.
rate is. And
Okay.
when Fed decides, okay, it's time to start lowering the rates, the prime, they'll lower it to 8, let's say. So now your rate is not 9.5, it's 8.5.
Okay.
Right, or 8, whatever how they lower
Okay.
it. I mean, if it was 8.5 and your rate is 1 plus prime, it was
Yeah.
9.5, and now the prime is 8, so your rate is 9, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Makes sense.
that's the math.
Yeah,
That's how
we actually have a HELOC, and ours is 1% plus WSJ prime, and it recalculates every quarter. So
Interesting.
whatever it was at this date, it would stay that for 3 months, and then they would look at that again, add the percent, and it would be like that for 3 months.
Okay, so that's something different. That typical HELOC is just,
Okay.
the attached to prime, and it changes whenever prime changes.
Wow,
Okay,
okay.
gotcha.
Okay.
Okay.
Mhm.
So there are so many different variations.
Yeah.
All
Yeah,
across.
and you need to look into it and read, and also important question to ask the bank, is there prepayment penalty? Because they might not allow you to not pay down, but maybe you paid it off and you decided to close it out within a certain period of time. They might there might be a penalty for that. And typically when people pay it off and close it out would be in situation, not like example I gave when you already own a home, but maybe you break the loan in two when you buy a house. So let's say a situation when you're buying a house and you have a house that you're gonna sell, right? But not yet. So you want to buy another house and you want to have two mortgages because you're gonna net 300,000 on the house you will sell, but you don't really have 300,000 to put down right now. You have maybe 5% to put down, right? So you're gonna do 20% first mortgage or whatever the amount, right? So to avoid the mortgage insurance, for example,
Right.
you're gonna get 80% first mortgage and plus the second mortgage for the amount of net proceeds that you get, and you just throw it into the principal on that on the HELOC, and then you close it out.
Yeah.
Or you expecting money coming in, inheritance, or you know that tomorrow you're gonna win the lottery.
Yeah.
And you're gonna do that. So that's the example of why someone would pay it off and close it out. But I recommend keeping it open. Like I said, the zero balance means zero interest. Why don't you keep it open? And even if its rate is 9.5, it's much less than on the credit card. What is the rate on
Exactly.
credit card? 20% in the best case scenario. So if you need to tap into your credit for whatever reason, maybe your AC died and you need 10 grand, you can just use the line of credit for that.
Yeah. Yeah, I like that.
I like HELOCs.
And they're good for, like, if you wanted to use some of the equity maybe for a down payment on an investment property that you could pay off, there are different ways to use it so you can start leveraging yourself to get in different investment opportunities, as long as the numbers work. Don't go in debt or invest.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah,
But,
that's a good point.
Yeah.
So, and like Kelly, you mentioned about a home equity loan. that's another option as well. And some people that are maybe more conservative, they would like this option. So it also goes behind the first or can be standalone. The difference between HELOC and HELOAN is on the loan you cannot draw and pay back and draw again, right? So
Okay.
if you get in $300,000 HELOAN, that's you get in it right away and you start paying the interest on it right away.
Okay.
And once you pay it down, you cannot draw again.
Okay.
It's kind of like now I would say if HELOC is like a credit card, HELOAN is like a car loan, let's say, right? So, but
Gotcha.
again, it's secured by the property.
Okay.
And it has a principal and interest payment. It's not an interest only, and it has a fixed rate. So whatever rate you get, that's what it is, and it does not change.
Okay.
So that's
I have a question. I have a question. I think about, well, I guess it would apply to either a HELOC or a HELOAN. And it would be, how do you guys, let's say the homeowner had their house for 10 years. And so their equity is very different now than it would have been 10 years ago. Not only because of whatever they paid down, but also because of the prices, the value's increasing. How do you guys determine the new value to know how much they can get in a HELOC or a HELOAN?
Well, appraisal. They would order appraisal and see what it's what the value is now, and base it on the new
So it's
value.
appraisal minus existing debt on the property would be the
Yeah, so let's say they did appraisal, like on that first example. Let me go back to it. Let me see, where was it? Like here, for example, right? So we have appraisal came at $1 million, and we know that we can draw the maximum loan to value, combined loan to value can be only 80%.
Yeah.
And we know that the first mortgage is 500,000, so we know that we can get only 300,000.
Okay.
Is this a desktop appraisal or is it a live in-person actual inspection appraisal?
I would say that it's a live, like real appraisal, but again, that could vary from bank to bank.
Okay.
They might also do a desktop. Maybe they will run it through the system, and when they analyze the file and they analyze the property address, they could tell you, we think the computer thinks that value is X, so because of that you can get this much money on HELOC. And if that's not enough for a client, they want more money, and they say, no, let's do a normal appraisal because I think my house worth more than that, so they can get more money.
Okay. And then does the borrower pay for that appraisal, whether they end up moving forward or not?
Again, it depends on the lender. Some they would charge. When I got my HELOC, it was free. Appraisal was free, but it was an actual appraisal. A person came to my house and it's yeah, it depends.
I love HELOCs. I think they are so, and I think this is points to another really great positive of home ownership versus renting. It just opens up so many more options, like you said, Tatiana, a credit card can be 15 to shoot almost, I think my Amazon Prime is 29.99% right now. So it can be so high, but if you are a homeowner and you can tap into this kind of equity in your home and use the money for the same sort of purposes at an insanely lower interest rate, why not? So I love it.
And the closing cost is lower on HELOCs than on regular loans.
Okay.
Okay.
All
right. So just to be clear, the 10-year time frame that you laid out, you said that I could have it paid off in 30 years. After 10 years, it might conform or convert to a HE loan. that 10 years is from the date of the origination of the line of credit. It's not from the date of the balance increasing. So if it was year seven before we put, let's say, $10,000 on our HELOC, it would still be 3 years from that point that it might convert versus 10 years from the date that you made that charge. You see what I'm saying?
No, yeah, that's from the moment you open up
Okay.
the HELOC. Yes, and in some loans, HELOANs, by the way, you know, they could be less than 30 years. They could be 15 or 20.
Right.
They have different terms
Yeah.
for that. And once you want to you need to convert from interest only to fixed. You also have options for how many years. They just don't want to drag over 30 years. So I would say 20 is going to be the longest for the fixed portion.
Okay.
But you can choose shorter term.
Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Good. I love it.
All right.
Very good. I love this topic. Thank you.
All
You're
right.
welcome.
Any other questions?
No.
No? Okay. Well, thank you. I really appreciate this. This was very helpful. I think that we should do at some point, we should do a video on ways to avoid PMI without putting 20% down. So I think this might be a strategy somebody could use.
Right.
But that's a whole other topic for a whole other day.
Well, and in ours, our HELOC was when we first bought our house, and our original loan, it was kept at the conforming loan limit. And then our HELOC was beyond that,
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
so that was,
Different strategies. Like it.
yeah,
Okay.
that's good.
Yeah, my HELOC, I got it because I wanted to do a renovation in the house and I didn't want to deplete my assets. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
got the HELOC and
Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Very
actually got HELOAN. I got HELOAN for 15 years.
good. Okay.
Okay.
And it was, I'm gonna brag a little bit. It was a couple of years ago before the rates went up. So my rate on my HELOAN, 15-year HELOAN is 2.5%.
Oh, I love it.
Gosh, that's like free money.
It's free money, you know,
Yeah.
like why would I use my, you know, cash? What if
Yeah.
I need it for something else when I can
Yeah.
just get a
Yeah, and your cash, I mean, you can have that in a savings account making what, 4.5%, 5% right now. And your loan, you're only paying what, 2.5% on? I think that's great.
And I love HELOCs for the perspective of, you know, the potential of buying like an investment property.
Mhm.
You know, a lot of people want to get into investing, but they don't have the cash saved up. Well, they can use the equity that's built up in their house over the last couple of years, take a HELOC out, put the down payment on the property, and then potentially use that to start building their rental portfolio. And
Yeah,
it's just there's strategies that you can use for this that can really pay off.
yeah. So talk
It
to
is a
your,
very popular strategy for my clients that are investors. They just take HELOCs, and that's acceptable source of funds
Yeah.
for that's important part. You know, when you get
Yes.
in another mortgage and you put in money down, we look at where the money coming from, and
Yeah.
HELOCs are acceptable.
they are, okay, that's
Yeah.
a really good point.
Yeah, because you can take it, okay, a little bit. Sorry, I'm spinning here, but you could take a HELOC, buy an investment property, hold that investment property for 2 or 3 years, then take a HELOC on that investment property, use that HELOC to buy your next investment, and you could have this leapfrogging effect of taking your initial investment and spreading that over multiple properties. So anyway, that's
That's true.
Love it. All right,
All
now,
right.
Jenna, how does everybody get in touch with you?
They can call me at 571-245-3000.
All right. Thank you.
Yes.
We'll see you next week.
Thank
Thank
you. See you.